your seats and get started. Okay, let's get started. Let's have our seats. We'll give you guys time after to keep on chatting. No worries. I'm so glad you guys are here. I can't wait to see my Instagram and my messages filled with all of your pictures that you tagged. I cannot wait. That's wonderful. It's like I kind of want people to be like, where were they at? Like, they were at BSB. Where were you? And they can be invited next time. I'm not saying that they can't be invited. I'm just, they should be next time. Anyways, well, I'm not trying to stop because I'm just going to talk. So I don't need to say.
Okay, welcome. Again, I'm so excited to have Nicole from Sprout Law here. So I'll tell you what, there is power in networking. I don't know many of you, but I feel it myself too, is when it comes to networking, I get a little sweaty. I'm like, gosh, don't ask me what I do because I really don't know how to say it. And it's overwhelming. And I jumble, I tell them things that I shouldn't say, and it gets really awkward. So networking is really scary for me. But I believe it is so powerful and it's needed in everyone's business. That's why it's really good to know your elevator pitch. It's good to know who you are, know who your ideal client is, so when you're able to share that with someone else, it comes out. And who cares if you stutter? Who cares if you're like, hold on, let me try again? That's okay. But it's very important to do it. So when I met with Elizabeth, with iFund Woman, she was here and she was teaching on iFund Woman, and she just was like, threw out a name. She's like, oh yes, my friend, Nicole Swartz. She does trademarking. She's an attorney. We all went, wait, what? Who is this woman? She's like, yes, you need to go look her up. I looked her up, and I swear our brands were like besties, like blush pink, those like sweet, nice blues. It's just so beautiful. We got to meet and have coffee, and we just hit it off so well.
I feel like we talked about books and what books we were reading for like an hour and a half. We were like, and then what?
And then
what is the other book?
Yeah. I mean, it was so dreamy. This coffee was so good. So just letting you know, I know networking is a little cringy or scary, but you could just be maybe your next business bestie. You never know. So I'm really excited to have Nicole here. Her story and how she got started is so inspiring and empowering too, because she saw the problem. She experienced a problem, saw the problem, and she's like, I'm going to be the solution for it for women. It's amazing. So can't wait for you guys to hear from her, learn so many things, take notes. Please follow her. Please support her. And like I said, maybe right now you're not ready to invest in trademarking, but it's so good to start a relationship with attorneys or bankers or insurance or bookkeepers. It's so important to have that relationship, because you're going to have someone in your life saying, gosh, I really want to start trademarking my stuff. Well, I have a gal, and she's amazing. And you can refer her to Nicole. So I'm really excited. Let's please welcome Nicole and learn so many things from her.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, first of all, we need to talk about the fact that you guys showed up on a Monday to talk about legal stuff. Like, it's not a small thing. So I'm a trademark attorney, obviously, but we can talk about any legal stuff today. So if you have questions about contracts or LLCs or copyrights, we'll talk through all that needs. So if you're like, oh no, I don't know. We'll talk through it, but just feel free to ask me. I'm here to be a resource. I've got a ton of information on my blog. Like, just DM me anytime, email me, like, ask me the questions. And as we're talking through this, like, shout it out, ask me questions. We'll time at the end if you like aren't the shout it out person, but otherwise just fire them at me. Okay. Sorry, I think just making this.
Hi. Okay, should be going that one next. It really does. Interesting. Hold on, ladies. Is it working out?
Yeah, well, I can just start with that because it's just about me. So.
Okay, you go after.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I have Virgo, oldest child lawyer energy, so I'm like really organized, all of that stuff. The other part about me is that I love celebrity gossip. So if you want to talk about Rihanna's new trademark, if you want to talk about Taylor Swift's trademarks, I'm the person to talk to about that. And my story. So I went to law school. Did not want to actually like be a lawyer at a law firm. So I started a skincare line, like totally different. I was working doing like document review for like a contract, like a construction business. And I was like, oh my God, I hate my life. So I was on Pinterest at like 5 a.m. scrolling as you do. And I came across a recipe for like body scrub. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. Done. And I just started making them, right? Like, as we do. This is normal, right? I was just like, fine. Yes, I can do that. I can make a body scrub. So I started making them in my kitchen. I started like selling them at little craft fairs in my town. Then it became like festivals. Then it became trade shows. And then we're in like hundreds of stores a couple years later. So this became like my full-time thing. We're in the Golden Globes gift bags. We were in hundreds of wholesale accounts. It's very cool. And my brand name was something that my younger sister's, my best friend, she came up with it. She's like, oh, how about Sweet Cheeks? This was like the name. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute, right? Like it was sugar scrub, like great. So that was my name. That was just like what I started with. And then 2 years later, we were in all of these stores. And then I got a cease and desist letter in my inbox from somebody being like, this is my brand name. I've trademarked it and you have to change everything in 30 days. And I was like, that can't be right? Like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm gonna break from the law right now. Like, that does not apply to me. So, no. And then I looked it up, and then I called the trademark attorney, and they were like, yeah, no, you have to change, like, everything in 30 days. And so I was talking about it with my girlfriends, and they were all like, wait, what are trademarks? Like, I don't know anything about that. And then I happened to be at dinner with, like, some founder bros, and they were like, oh, yeah, I have 7 trademarks, 18 patents, 64 copyrights. And I was like, how do all the men know this? And, like, none of my women friends know this. So that just sort of became like my thing where I was like, I'm gonna learn everything about trademarks. This is never gonna happen to me or any of my friends ever again. And that's what I did. So I started my own law firm, Sprout Law. This was in 2017. So it's been about, math is not my thing, 7 years. And the first thing I did was trademark it because I was never again. So that's me. Thank you. I could just unplug and plug everything.
I'll do it.
Okay, all right. So about me, we work with women-owned businesses. That's like the whole mission, the whole goal. Most of what we do is trademarking, so protecting brands, which we'll talk more about what that means, what that is. But we also can help, like I was saying, with LLCs, copyrights, questions like if you're like, what's the DBA? Do I need this? Like just come and talk to me, DM me, whatever. I can help. And then I think there's a puppy slide coming up. Things about puppies. So, it's Monday. We're talking legal stuff. Let's see some puppies, right? Yeah. Just fun. And then, so we'll have puppies, and then we'll have a slide that says, this is not legal advice, not your attorneys, all of that stuff, right? Here they are. Gator. Here they are. Oh, there we go. Okay. Cool. So there you go. Let's do the next one. All right. So legal overview. So, just to unplug it, plug it back in type of situation, you know? All right. So we've got a couple different things here. So LLCs and corporations, that protects your personal assets. So if you ever get sued, you're not going to have to pay that personally if you have an LLC or a corporation. If you don't have that and you get sued, then you can have to pay whatever personally. So that stinks. Trademarks protect your branding. So we'll talk through all the different things you can trademark, but that's mostly about the brand. And then copyright protects creative works. So if you have like a course, if you have images, if you have videos, music, artwork, that kind of stuff, you can copyright it. And then contracts protect you when you're working with another person. So whether that's like a client, whether that's someone who buys on your website, whether that's a graphic designer, social media manager, anything like that, like a wholesale account, all that's contract. So again, like we're going to focus mostly on trademarks, but feel free to ask me any questions about any of that. Okay, so these are all the different things that trademarks protect. So it's like your brand name, your personal name, your logo, your tagline, your product, your product name, your course name, podcast name, like name, logos and taglines. So that's kind of the gist of it. So it's going to be about who is selling, this product. So if somebody new were to find you online, they're going to be like, wait, who's that person? That's what you would trademark, if that makes sense. So it is the exclusive right to use this branding. I usually say name because that's what most people trademark is like the brand name.
So it's the exclusive right to use this brand name to sell what you sell. So when you get a trademark, you're the only one who can use that name to sell what you sell. So thinking about it like Nike's the only brand who can use Nike to sell clothing, right? Like Starbucks, there's only one Starbucks. And if there were 100 Starbucks and like every coffee store could be Starbucks, it would be really confusing to you to figure out which one is which. Like some would be really bad, some would be really good, and you wouldn't always know as a consumer which one you want to go to. And that hurts Starbucks' brand because they've got, bad coffee at some of them. So this is a way for businesses to like protect from copycats, because when you start building your brand, then other people are like, hey, that's a really good idea. And then they come out with, something similar. And it's also a way to protect consumers so that you know what you're buying. And just, you guys can read, but Yeti, Lululemon, so just any brand name you've heard of, it's probably going to be trademarked. So when you get the trademark, you're the only one who is legally allowed to use it. You can stop other people from using it too. So I own the Sprout Law trademark. I'm the only one who can use that in law. So that includes like variations like the Sprout Legal Company. Like nobody can do that, because if you guys were going to find me on Instagram, you'd be like, wait, there's 2 of them. Which one are you? You might go to the wrong one. So step 1 of this is to make sure that your brand name is available first. So we just got to make sure, like, let's see, is there anybody else out there who has this name already? Because if somebody has already trademarked your brand, they can have you rebrand it, which is what happened to me and was just not very fun.
Nicole, is that the same thing as a domain name? Domain.
Yeah, no, totally different.
No.
So
Okay.
the domain, that's a good question though, because
Okay.
so the domain is just, what www dot whatever goes into your website. But that is a totally separate thing. It does not protect your brand. It doesn't protect anything. So if I have like sproutlaw.com, right? But somebody else could do sproutlaw.co. And then again, you'd be going in, typing it in, and you'd be like, wait, which one are you? I don't know. So the domain is important to get. And I recommend that you get all the variations of your domain, because if somebody else gets the domain, like you can't get it back, like ever. So you really want to like lock your domains down. Same with any like social media accounts. But this is more like, okay, have you guys seen the movie Burlesque? When they're talking about like air rights and it's like this totally made up like legal scheme, that's this. This is like a completely invisible right that's out there and exists and has no like, there's no way to like sort of put it in a tangible form like a domain. Does that make sense? This is just sort of like this invisible right that's out there of like, the government gives you the right to use the name, and you're the only person who can use it in your field. Yeah. But the domain name is a good thing because it's a good thing to bring up. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm already trademarked, and I trademarked my tagline.
Okay.
But I had my friend that's my attorney. She was telling me now I need to trademark my merchandise.
Maybe. So you can't really trademark merchandise like that. Like there's no way to say like I'm the only one who can sell this product, something like that. But what you can do is say like maybe
It's me wanting to put the name of my company and my tagline on clothing.
On clothing. Okay.
And on like bottles and stuff. So she was saying, I guess that there's different kind of, which I just thought it was just trademark the name and I'm good.
Yeah, so when you do a trademark, we can talk through this later, but like with more depth, but when you do a trademark, you're trademarking it in your industry. And so it's up to you to decide what that is. So for me, like I'm Sprout Law, I trademarked it in legal services. But let's say in the future I want to sell clothing with it, then I might need another trademark to trademark clothing. Sometimes you can do it all at once. Yeah, that's probably. A lot of times you do it all at once, but then you don't always know what you're going to sell in the future. So in the future I might be like, oh, and I'm going to do business coaching. Like maybe that's a totally different thing, and so you might need to do another trademark to like protect those.
At what stage in your business do you recommend people start getting serious?
I've got a slide for you. So I'm licensed in LA. I have a LA woo-woo hippie answer, which is it's a gut feeling. So it's like when let's just go ahead and skip ahead to this. We'll come back, but like this is perfect. Okay. So I got really 2 considerations for me. It's a gut feeling of when you don't want to rebrand. So for some people, this is like before they even launch. They're like, this is my name. I'm not launching for a year. I want to trademark it now. For some people, it's like, well, let's try it out for 2 or 3 years, see if it gets traction, see if we have like some customers, see if this is the right, because we said you have to list your industry. So So it's also like, let's see if this is the right like service, the right product for, you know, the fit. And then once you sort of like commit to the brand and decide, okay, this is gonna be my thing for the next like 4 or 5 years, that's sort of the right time. And that is kind of different times for everybody. You know, some people, I'd say it's rare, but some people are like 10, 15 years in, and then they're like, okay, now's the time. So I usually think about it like, if you saw a copycat or somebody else using your brand name that came out tomorrow, same industry as you, same brand name, would you be like really mad about it? Or would you be like, no, it's fine. Like there's room for everybody. Some people feel differently about it, you know? Yeah.
I have a question, but
I have a lot.
I'll start with
Go for
one,
it.
and
Okay.
feel free to defer, but going back to the slide you were on about doing a trademark search.
Yes.
How does it work, and again, you cover that, I'll just stop, but how does it work if, let's say, no one has, like I'm like a serial entrepreneur, I have so many businesses,
I love
and it's all housed under one LLC. So the name of my LLC is Lone Star Nutrition LLC, so
Yeah.
it used to be my private practice, I don't operate
Sure.
it as much anymore. All my other businesses are grouped under there.
Yeah.
But for Lone Star Nutrition, I honestly don't know if it's trademarked, and I don't care too much at this point unless it causes me a ton of like work to redo my LLC.
Yeah.
But how does it work with timing if, like, let's say 10 other people have the business?
So the
or
LLC
something?
name doesn't really matter. Like anyone can have an LLC name. That part is not correct. Like you could start like Nike LLC and sell clothing. So it's weird because LLCs are sort of different. Like that's just like your government name, like what you put on your documents. But the trademark is for like your brand name. So this is more like what is at the heading of your website. That's what you trademark. Or like what is on your product. Like that's the part.
So then in that case, what if no one has trademarked? So for example, my blog, and what most people know me as is
Yeah.
Kiss in the Kitchen. Kiss
Yeah.
stands for Keep It Simple Shannon. My dad
Love
always
it.
used to
Okay.
call me that. So Kiss in the Kitchen. Let's say there's a lot of other variations. Like there's a local like food truck that started
Yes.
after me that calls themselves Kiss in the Kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't love it because
Wow.
Kiss in the Kitchen is very personal for
Right.
me. Also, does it hurt my business in any way? No, we do different things, right? But how does it work with timing if, let's say, hypothetically, no one's trademarked it, but there's like 50 businesses out there that call themselves that? Is it just a race on who decides I'm actually going to trademark it, or is it who started using it first?
So I have like 2 answers. I have like a lawyer answer. So the legal answer is that both can be true. Like the legal answer is like you have trademark rights, right? This is if you register your trademark with the government. That's sort of like the default right. Whoever registers it first has the default right. People who were using it first and have been using it for like a long time can sort of like claw back some of those rights and say, well, I've been using it for 20 years in Texas, so like I should get the right to use it in Texas. So that's like the legal thing. It's like there's sort of these 2 levels. The practical answer is that it's very expensive if somebody trademarks it before you to come in and say like, well, I've been using it in Texas for 20 years. Like you're still going to pay like $5,000 to $10,000 to try to negotiate that, as opposed to just paying for the trademark in the first place.
But again, in that case, you said if someone trademarked it first, what if nobody trademarked it?
Then you would want to be the first person.
Okay.
Yeah, so they don't have to be in that
But if
situation.
they've been using it, not trademarked, but if they've been using like, I think there actually is another Kiss in the Kitchen blog out there or something that I've come across before, and I think they did it first.
Okay.
It doesn't mean the same thing. I stumbled on
Gotcha.
it years later.
Okay.
Let's say hypothetically, no one has trademarked it.
Yeah.
How does that, is that she's been using it longer?
Gotcha. Okay. So if somebody has been using it longer than you and you go to trademark it, I would say generally it's going to be fine. You're going to get the trademark for it, but that other person might come back, especially if it's a small business. They're just going to come back and be like, hey, like don't like shut me down. And you wouldn't. And you wouldn't because
yeah.
they've been doing it before you. And so technically if somebody's been doing it before you and they're in the same industry, it's like same thing.
Yeah.
They can file to cancel your trademark. But that like never happens unless you're dealing with Target or like somebody big. So if it's another small business, you could just leave them alone and just never send them a cease and desist because they get like take action against you. So usually just let them coexist, do your thing. But you might want to get it to stop other people from doing it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Can I piggyback on that?
Of course.
In the sense of what stopped me from doing it
Yeah.
is the legal cost in
100%.
fighting it. If somebody
Yeah.
does come up with the same thing, then you have to get lawyers involved and the cost of that. Like,
Yes.
why is it worth it? If that makes sense. Like,
To enforce it, you mean, against somebody else?
it's, actually enforcing the trade.
So it's actually, I would say, pretty easy to enforce because social media will handle it for you. Like everybody now, I mean, I would say most people are building their business on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, right? Like that's how everybody markets. So if somebody actually is infringing on your trademark, you file an infringement report with Facebook and Instagram. You could list your registration number and they just take the page down for you. Like they just remove the entire page permanently and never put it back up again. So that sort of saves you from, having to like hire an attorney and pay thousands of dollars to do that. And like you really have to make sure it is trademark infringement before you do that, and you also have to have a registered trademark to do that, but that is an option to like make it a lot cheaper.
Thank you.
Yes.
They're not like, if you're like, I'm gonna trademark it, and I was like, well, they're not gonna tell the other people that have your name that someone's got the trademark.
They are not, no. There's no darks in this system. We're watching The Wire.
Just be careful with that though, because I've had messages that are like spam and phishing, and they'll send you like, this is a copyright infringement or trademark.
Yeah.
Click this link right now, and so make sure it's really from Facebook before you click any links.
Yeah.
Because I've seen,
Right.
I've had that a lot
Yeah.
lately.
Don't click anything. Okay, so back to the trademark search. So step one is like, let's just see if it's available for you to protect. Let's see if this is a name that you can use, like all that kind of stuff. So there's kind of like 3 levels. I would say just Google it, look through the first like 10 pages of Google, look on social media, and then uspto.gov is the trademark website. So this is gonna have a database that anybody can access. It's free, it's public information of anybody who's filed a trademark. So these are the 3 places you would look, and you're gonna look for your exact business name and your brand name. You're also gonna look for keywords. So for me, I would look for Sprout and just see like, are there any variations of that? Somebody's using like Sprouted, that might be too similar. Somebody's using like, the Sprout Legal Company, like Sprout Legal, any of those things. And then your, exact name and also keywords. So that's sort of the first part of it. And you're looking for, again, like similar names. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So like, let's say your name is like Mockingbird, and somebody's like, I'm Mockingbird Co. Like that's still too similar. So it's really about like these keywords. And then you're looking for people in your industry. So they have to be similar products and services. So, if I'm a law firm and somebody else is like, there's like a Sprouts grocery store, there's a Sprouts kids store for like clothing. Back to your point, like if you're a blog and somebody else is a food truck, like, maybe that's different enough. So it's really about like, the industry. I would say like some common similarities are like, if you sell apparel, that's going to be similar to like other clothing companies, but also like bags, jewelry, different, like anything that you would wear, scarves, hair clips, whatever. If you were selling skincare, it's going to be too similar to like hair care, perfume, essential oils, candles, like kind of anything in that space. So again, we're just looking for like similar people. We're looking for people who are selling in the US. So even if they're based somewhere else, if they're selling in the US, that's what we're looking for.
Now, if we hired you, would you do all this for us?
I do, yes. So I would say
That's the best part.
money did about this. So yeah, we have a trademark search that's $59, so it's like pretty affordable, but it's also a good idea to run this yourself just really quickly before you hire us, because if you find like, oh, somebody else has a trademark for exactly this, then it's like, well, you don't need to like waste your time investing all that stuff.
And
But
I
if
just
you
wanted
don't-
to share what she said. I had a friend of mine where I paid my friend, that was the attorney, to do all of it. My girlfriend, someone told her, oh no, you could do it cheaper, and they told her how to do it. She recently just received a cease and desist. So now she is fighting for that brand,
Right.
where my girlfriend told her it looks like most likely she's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
And she's invested so much, but she did not do the research to see if they were in the same market and all of that.
Yeah, and it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but it's weird because you think about the brands that you know, right? You're like, well, I know like maybe 200 brands out there, but there's millions. There's actually like 7 million trademarks or something, like brands that you've never heard of before that have trademarked it. So it's not just like, the ones that you can think of. There's also a lot of small, medium businesses that you've never heard of that also have trademarks. So.
And they said typically an attorney, you guys follow us through the whole process until we get the certificate, whereas though she did not have that.
Yeah.
So this whole time she thought she was trading,
That sucks. Yeah.
and somebody else came in and they snatched up her trademark.
Yeah, and that is a perfect segue into our next slide, which is like, you should definitely run this yourself, but when you run it yourself, you might look at it and be like, I didn't find anything, like I'm good. And this is something I hear like almost every day of my life. It's like, I've already run a search, like I got it. And it's like, there's so many businesses out there already that like, there's always something we find where we're like, okay, I gotta research this more and like look into whether that product is similar or this product or whether that name is similar. Like it's usually, I would say it's very rare that I look at it and I'm like, okay, done, 5 seconds. Like it's usually more in depth than that. So if you found nothing, to me that's sort of like a red flag, like, oh, maybe you're not looking broad enough or something. Yeah.
My husband handles this part.
Okay.
That's not responsible for me.
Love it.
And he's
So did
like,
mine.
he's like, I know. He's like, that's not my personality. But I think it's because you have to think outside the box and find your niche, which you did. And so, but anyway, I think they ran an ad. So you have to rent. Did you have to rent an ad?
Oh, that's kind of a separate thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to run ads with this. If you're filing an LLC,
Like in a newspaper.
yeah, if you're filing an LLC in some states, you have to run an ad in a
It was
newspaper,
for,
but it's not for the trademark.
so we did it just for our brand name and for Bradley Kelly, and we had to like run an ad through, and was it?
No, I think the only thing I can think of is an LLC, but it wouldn't be in
It is
Texas. It's like in New York or
It is a
something.
copyright. I don't know.
I don't know.
And then I since I'm already talking.
Yeah.
So we have a jewelry company and we have our name, copyrighted.
Trademark. But yes.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
No, I
That's why
got you.
didn't
I got
answer
you.
that.
No, I got you.
forgot, like
Look,
what's next to our logo.
here we go.
That's fine.
Trademark branding and copyright creative. There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. And I don't know why, I'm really thinking we had a C by her name. Okay,
Well, you might have a C at the bottom of your website to show like the website
Yeah.
is copyrighted. A lot of people do that, so that makes sense. If you got an R next to your name, you don't have trademark. That's a big problem because you can get in trouble for that. So just make sure that that's not the case.
I will look while we're talking. And then, so we have different pendants, and we have some that are like bestsellers, and so like you're not gonna go and get every creative piece copyrighted.
Correct.
Because that would just be so expensive and a lot of work and not necessary, but for like our bestsellers, I thought that someone said, different journey, that he said that you have to do it within so many, like a year of that design coming out, and I don't, to me, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, not really. There's not really a timeline. I think you're right about like copyrights protecting your creative work, but it doesn't make sense to protect every single thing. Like thinking about how many SKUs you would have or designs. Usually it's just going to be bestsellers. Or things that have already been stolen. So if something does get stolen, you have 30 days to file a copyright and still be able to stop them from 30 days from when you notice that it's stolen. So maybe that's the timeline.
Okay. So, just generally speaking, to have how long is the process to get a design copyrighted?
About 4 months, I'd say, to get copyrighted.
And so like, once you start the process, can someone see that you're starting the process?
It's not public until it's approved,
Okay.
so you're good.
Good to know.
Well, also, once you file the copyright, this is different than a trademark. Trademark, you have to go through the whole process, but once you file the copyright, you can actually start enforcing it the day that you filed it.
Okay.
So you do get to sort of use it early.
And what is the general, like the estimated cost for
I'd
like,
say like $400, that includes the fee for each copyright that you're doing.
okay. Like my daughter, we saw a movie over the holidays, and she was like, "You took your design, and you did that. It's totally different, and it has to be 20%." Like I don't know. I just mixed it up. And so I was like, "Oh, and
That's right there. Can we use that for Q&A after?
yes, I'm
Perfect,
sorry.
thank you.
but-
Yeah, let's get through all your slides.
Okay.
And we'll do Q&A after. Sorry, guys. Because I want to jump in and do my personal questions too, but I want to make sure. that you
Okay.
guys are set.
All right, so just double check that you're looking like really broad for these. And again, like the point of the trademark search is number one, you want to find out if anybody has already trademarked it. Because if they have already trademarked it, they might send you a cease and desist letter in the future. So it's just good to know if that's like out there. And number two, if you are looking to protect your name from copycats, this is the first step to make sure that like you can actually go through the trademark process, which we'll talk about next, but it's kind of long, it's kind of expensive. So you want to like do this first, just to like sort of insurance to make sure like this is worth your time and money to do. Okay. All right. So step two, get a trademark to stop copycats. So that's the main point of what we're talking about here is making sure number one that you can actually own your brand, that nobody's going to send you a cease and desist. And then on the flip side that, if you find a similar company out there that's doing what you do, that you can actually stop them. Because if you don't have a trademark, you can. You just have to sort of let it go. And I don't like that because I'm petty. So there's process. All right, so step one, you file a trademark application at uspto.gov. This is not something I'm going to recommend you DIY, so don't feel like you have to, write down like exactly how to do it, but I just want you to understand like the process. So it takes about 8 months after you file it. Most of the time it gets denied at first. It's like 84% of the time. So this is sort of like I sort of think about it like, this is an exclusive right that the government's giving you, right? Like they're like, you get the legal right to do it. So they have to make sure that you are checking all the boxes, that you're like, you have all the documentation, that everything is right before they give you this right, essentially. So usually this, this first denial is just part of the process. And then they're gonna want you to like make corrections or like talk to them about like, what does this mean? What is it that you do? Or sometimes they need you to make legal arguments. So they might say like, well, we already have a brand that's trademarked that's called Sprout Legal and you're Sprout Law. So like, why should we allow you to do it? And you sort of have to show through legal precedent, through random creative arguments that their brand is different enough legally from another brand. So that is sort of like the second step. This is like the hardest step, step 2. And this is really why you would hire an attorney to do this, just because this is hard to get through. Even for me, like we have a lot of trademarks to go through. I'd say we're in like the 95% rate, but it's also like, it's still really hard for us to get those ones through. And then step 3 is publication. So they put it on a website. This gives other people a chance to oppose it if they feel like it's too similar to their brand. Back to what you were saying, like they don't let people know. So they don't like proactively reach out and say like someone's trademarking, like that's not a thing. It's mostly just larger brands that are paying attention. So Target, Snapchat, people like that who would do this. And then after that, your trademark goes through. So this is usually about a year. Yeah, it's a long time. So it used to be like 3 months. And then post-COVID, like everybody started a small business, which is awesome, but also everybody filed a trademark. So it just takes a long time to go through the process. So the cost, I would say the average cost is going to be $1,500 to $2,000. That's just going to range on how many classes you have. So if you're going to do, because the trademark office charges you a fee for each class. So just to give you an example, like so if I'm doing just protecting my name for a law firm, that's going to be cheaper than protecting my name for a law firm and clothing and candles and business coaching and a restaurant, like all the different industries. So some ways to save, because obviously this is not always super affordable. So number 1, find a package rate so that you know how much you're actually going to pay. So the way that most attorneys work about it is that they're going to give you a quote, and that's the quote to file the application. And then when you need all this work in step 2, you pay hourly for that, which sucks. So, so like the biggest thing you can do is like get a rate that includes all that stuff. This is like what we do, but there's other trademark attorneys that do this too, where they're like, this is the flat rate, you want a flat rate. And then number 2 is find payment plans. So a lot of attorneys will break this up. Ours is broken into 5 months, but other, like any attorney that you find, I would say that has like a decent looking website and social media will also have a payment plan. And then scholarship programs. A lot of attorneys offer these now too. We have one at the bottom of our website, but I know that other attorneys that you find on Instagram have this too. The main thing I would say is like these trademarks that are like $99 or $400, they will file anything. So you just put your name in and they'll just be like, done, filed. But it also means that like they're not going to represent you for step 2. They're not going to represent you for step 3. You're just going to be on your own after you file it, and you're going to have no idea what's going on. So if you do that, just know that you're going to need to pay more to hire an attorney to figure that part out. So it's not to say don't do it. It's just to say it's not going to be that cheap to do it. So when is it the right time? I was going to say like, woo, answer when you don't want to have to rebrand, when you feel like your brand has got enough traction and you're going to be, in that business for like, let's say 3 or 4 years, maybe more, maybe 5 years. Also, if you're in a popular industry, any of these industries here are like, we file so many of these trademarks a month, like apparel, bath and body, anything with CBD, podcast, wellness, personal growth, business marketing, coaching, even like things like Reiki or stuff like that. So many people are in these spaces that it makes sense to do it earlier because people might take your name before you get to it. And that just makes it really expensive for you to like get the name back.
Don't click away. Don't.
Oh, no, you're good. I clicked away. Thank you. Okay. I guess there's one other like little tiny thing I would say about this last part. So this last line, like when the trademark office is reviewing your application, they don't care about who started before who. They just care about who filed the application first. And the first person, they're going to be like, done, you get it. And if you have prior rights to that, and you're like, wait, I actually started this first, you have to fight that out with the other person on your own. So that is just not good. It's easier to just be the first person to file it and have the trademark office just give you the go ahead. Okay, so mistakes. Don't DIY it. There's lots of things that I would say DIY, like an LLC. That is your name and your address. Do that yourself. Like copyrights, I think if you want to do like an hour's worth of research, You could copyright something yourself. This is not really that, just because there's so many legal considerations that go into it, from the search and like whether something is similar to the actual like, application of like what classes does it make sense to the list? Can I add things later? Like all those questions. And then also don't wait too long to file it because somebody else puts it first. And watch out for those hidden fees. So I think name versus logo. So when I was going back to this, let me just go back to this slide really quick about what can you trademark. So these are all different trademarks, which is a pain, right? Because you're not going to pay to trademark all these things. But usually the brand name is the most important one because you can get, when you get the trademark for the brand name, you get the right to use it in any font, any style, any color. It's just words are just the most important part of it. So usually I would say name over logo because when you do your logo, it has to be the very final design that you do. If you make updates to the logo, if you change it in any way, the trademark's not going to be good anymore. And it's really just about that design. So about like the branding elements to it, how it's laid out, the colors, stuff like that. So usually that's not as important. Like I have my name trademarked, but I don't have the logo trademarked at all because I just don't care. I'm like, if I had to change my logo, I'd be fine. If I had to change my brand name, I would be.
So you can just file for a logo later?
Yes. Yeah, they're totally separate. So whenever you file for it, it just doesn't really matter. Yeah, you can file for it anytime. Yeah. Okay, so then once you have the trademark, it's kind of how it works. So they put on you to monitor it. So that just means like usually it's like Google, set a Google alert for yourself. We have a monitoring service that we do, but also like you just, set a Google alert monthly for your name. And then you're the one that has to send out cease and desist letters. So we have a template that, that we send out, but like, I would say you can send it out yourself, and then if people don't respond, then like we were talking about before, you can file these infringement reports with social media. Again, you actually have to have a trademark to do this. And you can get in trouble if you do it wrong. So like exercise caution, but that is an option. And then it renews your 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. So you do have to renew it every once in a while and show that you're still using it.
And where are you monitoring that?
I would say same thing as the search before. So it's gonna be Google, social media, and then the trademark office system. You wanna make sure that like, if somebody else files a trademark application, you wanna make sure that you're like watching that just to make sure it doesn't go through and just to give you a heads up, like, oh, this other company is gonna start launching. I see your question. I just had one more thought that I forgot. So let me try to remember what it was really quick. Oh, I was gonna say too, like, this is for the US. So this is gonna be for like people who are, like you can stop other people selling in the US, but international trademarks, every country has their own trademark. So it usually doesn't make sense to do a trademark in every country because that's gonna be really expensive. So, yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
If you trademark your name, how does that work?
It works the same way as the brand name. So it's like the same process, same everything. And then it's like, obviously anybody can use their name in life,
Right.
but it's like nobody else can start a business and like start selling whatever products or services you sell with that name. So, similar to like Kate Spade, like that's like her name, but it's like you could call your kid Kate Spade, but that kid can't start a bag line with the name, So, yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is copyrighted or trademarked.
Yeah.
So I also have a spa here where I've been owning it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Had a client come in that told me that someone else had my spa on Instagram.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
She said, yes, it is. And I changed from beauty salon to spa, but they went and took the whole logo that I created.
Yeah.
They don't live here. They live in China.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth me fighting for the logo I paid to have it copyrighted.
Are they a spot in China or a salon in China or what is it?
No, they stole the old logo.
Yeah, but like what do they do with it? Like what's the account for?
A beauty salon.
In China or here in the US?
China.
Yeah, you probably can't do anything about that. Because if they're just working with Chinese customers, then that's not in the US. So you'd have to get a Chinese trademark to stop them.
And that is a nightmare.
Yeah, and like I don't think most places in China don't really enforce trademarks. that well.
So what about the logo? Cause it's literally is mine.
Yeah.
I created it.
So a workaround could be,
I don't
So-
mind them
so-
using the name.
yeah. So you're not gonna get anywhere with trademarks, but a workaround could be I don't usually recommend copywriting a logo because it's not usually a strong protection, but it does work internationally. So you could try copywriting that logo.
The logo is copywritten.
Did you register with the copyright office?
Yes.
Okay, so then you could send them copyright infringement, cease and desist, or report it to Instagram or whatever, list the registration number and provide all that info to Instagram and Facebook.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're so welcome. Okay, any more questions?
I have a question about the renewal. So
Yes.
say you try to copyright, there's someone who has a name that's really similar, but you're noticing they're not really using it, like their website is, not really active. Could you wait until like the 5-year,
Yeah.
then reapply
Yes.
for that name?
Yeah, you can. So a lot of times when we run the searches and we'll be like, oh, somebody already has a trademark for this, but it's expiring in 6 months. And we go to their website, it's like, it doesn't look like they're using it. Like maybe you just wait it out for 6 months and see if it happens. So whenever their trademark expires, the trademark office just gives it to the next person in line. So sometimes it makes sense to file a little bit earlier than it expired. Like it's like a risk. It's like, well, what if they do renew? But like also if you wait until it fully expires, maybe somebody else files before you, and then you're in the same situation. So kind of put it out there as far as when to do it.
Speaking of what you said, is that, I just did a quick search
Yeah.
on the USP to.
Love
to
it.
look
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So is that what the status dead canceled means?
Yes. If it says dead canceled, that means it was registered and they just let it expire.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
And it's typically 5 years,
The first renewal is going to be 5 years.
and then the second's 10.
Second's 10, and then every 10 years after that. Yeah. So one thing with the USPTO system that I will say is like, just because something says dead doesn't mean that you can use it. So it might say dead because maybe it got denied because it was too similar to somebody else, and that somebody else still exists. So it's like, dead can be good, but also can be bad. It's also really like graphic. It doesn't need to be. Yeah.
Is the renewal process the same? Does it take the same amount of time, money, energy?
Yes, it shouldn't, but it does. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's and the cost. Yes. Yeah. Our cost is lower, but the trademark office charges more. So it ends up being about the same. They're gonna charge you like $600 just to renew it every 5. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, the rationale is like if you can't afford the $600 to renew it, then your business shouldn't get the right to own this, and maybe they should get that right because they can't afford to do it. Yeah. It shouldn't work out with it. Yeah.
Now, if we work with you, will you be reminding us, hey, it's expiring, or that's
We do.
on us?
Yeah, we do it. Yep. So we help. Just to sort of give you an overview, we help with like the whole process. So we do trademark search. That's $59. It just gives you a sense of like if it's available. We do the actual like application process. It's $15.55. That includes the filing fee that we pay the trademark office. We handle the whole process, like all the back and forth, whatever, and then we remind you when you have to renew it. So that's our whole thing. Okay, my cat story. This actually happened last year. There's another brand called Sprout Legal, and they were like, "Oh, we just started and we do trademark law." And I was like, "Well, obviously not, because you have infringed my trademark. You're not really that." So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, like my brand's Sprout Law. I've been doing this for 5 years. You have to change your name." And they were like, "No, I think it's different enough." And again, I was like, "You're really bad at your job because this is like pretty clearly, Sprout Law, you're Sprout Legal, like." 100% too similar. And as soon as my second response, I was like, here's my trademark registration. And they 2 minutes later, they're like, done, it's changed. Sorry, we're not gonna use this anymore. And that's the only reason that they don't exist anymore is because I have a trademark for it. Otherwise they would still be out there being jerks.
So did you have to keep your eyes out? Were you just like?
I have a Google alert set, yeah. So it pops up, yeah. Otherwise, it's like really confusing because you go to find me on Instagram and you'd be like, oh my gosh, she's so fun. And you'd be like, who's this other person? Especially if they have like crap branding. Like I was on a call with somebody the other day and they were like, we have this copycat and they're so bad that other people are like, we don't want to work with your brand because they think it's the bad one. And they'd be like, no, we're the cute one. And like this other brand just sucks. So that could be okay. Okay, the last thing I'll say before we do Q&As is like, it's okay if you don't have all this legal stuff yet, right? This is just stuff to like think about, stuff to like prioritize in the future. information to know, but don't like feel bad or feel like, oh my God, I don't have a trademark yet, or like I have to spend all this money to do this. Like, it's just stuff to think about. So I'm here as a resource, but don't feel pressured. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a lot of questions, so
Okay.
we'll just come back to me periodically
Let's
as
do
it
it.
comes up. So
Okay,
the
let's do
first
it.
question I have is for a 501c3. This is according to a CPA, but CPAs don't know legal stuff like a lawyer would.
So, and I don't know taxes, so we'll meet someone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, the CPA seemed unconvinced on the need to trademark a name for a 501c3.
Yeah.
And I want to know what your thoughts are. This 501c3 would operate internationally.
Yeah, so 501c3 is nonprofit, and so it's the same thing as all these other businesses. It's like if another brand had if another nonprofit came out and had the same brand name, do you feel like that would like confuse funders? Would it confuse like the people that you're working with, stuff like that? I feel like that makes sense to do it. I would say we don't trademark too many nonprofits. Maybe that's just because like we focus mostly on like, I don't know, apparel, like coaching, like just maybe it's our topic, whatever. But we do have some of them, and I still feel like the consideration is the same. Where if you're like, okay, another brand has the same name, they're looking for funding too. They're in the same space as you. Would it be confusing if people went to your website and there was like two of you? Then I think yes.
Well, I think that's why the CPA was kind of being like, why? Because this 501c3 is small right now, but obviously we want it to
As it
grow.
grows, yeah.
Yeah. So based on everything you're saying, it sounds like do it earlier, and it'll be a lot easier for everybody, especially if a copycat comes along down the road.
I think that's 100% true. Yeah. I would say like, again, like we just don't do that with many of them. So maybe the CPA's advice is coming from like, this is kind of just what people in the industry do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Do you know, you mentioned scholarships.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any scholarships that specifically fund trademarks for 501c3s?
No.
Do you know where to find that if that exists?
No.
Okay.
But I'll look for you. Give me your info after, like give me your card after, and I'll look around the internet.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. I'll also just clearly, if I don't know, I'll just tell you I have no idea. I don't know, but I'll research it. Okay, good.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you were sorry. Suzanne. Okay, you'll use this.
So we have a trademark on our name and our logo.
Yeah.
And we had somebody pop up who was using a very similar logo and a very similar name.
Yeah.
So we went to our lawyer, and he's like, yeah, they're infringing, sent a cease and desist letter. They basically hired the biggest law firm they could find and said, see you in court.
Yeah.
So, and they're a micro business, like,
Yeah.
so they must have a lot of money.
Right. Yeah.
So at that point, we're like, well, okay, what do we do now? You know, so that's kind of, I don't know if we just do the route of social media and try and do it that way. Likely they'll come after us anyways.
Depends. Yeah.
So,
No, it doesn't happen often, but that it is something that happens. Like your copycat can just be a div, like, basically. You know? Like sometimes it just comes down to like, are you going to pay money to fight this or not? And like, who's going to pay the most money? And that sort of becomes the negotiation thing, which is hard for small businesses, which is where I think the Facebook, Instagram, like you can also do it with domain names, like what are they called? Domain registrars, website hosts, like you do probably the same thing with that. So that's usually our next step, is to be like, you don't have to do anything, but like in 2 weeks we're filing this, and those pages get taken down immediately. They don't get put back up. Everything you post on Instagram is permanently deleted.
Right.
So that could be the next step that I would think of. Yeah.
Because our intention is to franchise our business, so it's like,
So you
can't
need them
allow
not to be doing
people
that.
to do these little things.
I mean, it also depends on like why the other attorney, so like what their reasoning was. Like maybe they had a reason why it was different. Like maybe the industries were different. I don't know, but if they really are infringing, then that would probably be the next step. Yeah. Something to think about. Not legal advice. I have no idea. But something to think about.
No,
Okay.
good to think about.
Yes.
Okay, so do you recommend having an LLC then trademarking, or
Oh,
should you
yes.
trademark?
That's a great question. Okay, so this is on the little handout that I gave y'all, but like I call this, I should trademark this. No, it's so dumb. I call this like a trademark sandwich. So I think it works like this. So number one, you run a trademark search, make sure this brand is like available, it's like something you can protect. Then you file the LLC for it, because you want to make sure it's like a name you can keep before you do all the paperwork, so you don't have to do the paperwork again. So then it makes sense to do the LLC, and then the last step would be like do the trademark after you have the LLC, so that the LLC is the owner of this trademark, because they charge you to like change it later if you become LLC later. Now that's like the preferred way to do it, right? This is like the most logical, saving money way to do it, but like almost nobody does it this way, right? That's just like not how life works. Like it's like, well, I already have my brand, or I already have an LLC, or like whatever. So these things can work in any thing. Like maybe you're not going to have an LLC, and so it's like, well, that stuff doesn't even apply. So it's just like whatever order we'll figure it out, you know.
So when you're doing a
I
non,
got you next. Sorry, go ahead. No, you're good. I was just telling you. I just saw you. Yeah.
so when you're doing a nonprofit, do you recommend that you do an LLC or do you just incorporate?
I think you incorporate. There's a specific type of corporation that's like not-for-profit corporation, so you're going to do that one. Yeah, but I still think it would make sense to do it in that order, especially with a nonprofit. You want to do the trademark search first, make sure it's available, then you do the nonprofit and all the tax stuff, because if you have to change that later, it's going to be terrible. And then you do trademark it.
Okay, thank you.
Can you trademark a DBA?
So
What's the relationship?
yeah, okay. So a DBA, I don't have a slide for this, but like I would say, let's see. Okay, so we have LLCs on one side, we have trademarks on the other. A DBA is going to fall on the LLC side. So with an LLC or a corporation, then you're not liable personally, right? If you don't want to have an LLC or a corporation, and you're like, I'm just going to do business with myself, but you do have to file a DBA, which just lets the government know, like, I'm doing business as this. The other reason to have a DBA is like if you have an LLC name that's different than your actual brand name. So I would say like DBA by itself, if that's the brand name, then yes. If that's just like, if your DBA is not what you're doing, but like it's not what's on your website or on your products, then no. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think that might be a good segue for one of my questions.
Okay.
So I mentioned earlier, I have an LLC, which is, it was nutrition focused at the time when I created it, but all of the businesses I have, all of their like health and wellness.
Yeah.
So is there anything
I mean-
super risky about the fact that I just have a singular LLC and all of my streams of income are like filed together?
Are they all DBAs or that LLC?
I mean, when you said that last time, I was like, wait, I thought I understood.
Okay.
So I'm an S corp, like
So-
as an LLC.
Yeah.
I don't do anything
Okay.
DBA wise anymore.
Yeah, so I would say especially in the wellness, yeah, that's fine. So there's the tax part of it, which is like you're all set up there.
Yeah.
But then there's like the liability part of it. And so since you're in wellness, I feel like this makes more sense for you to take it more seriously. Like if you were, you know, an apparel company, I'm like, you're not gonna get sued, that's fine. But since you're in wellness, I feel like it's a little bit more risky. So in that case, you would want to have a DBA for every brand that you have, like different brands, connecting them all back to the LLC. So you would say like, this is your DBA, you would say the LLC is the owner, doing business as this other brand. And that way, if you're sued by this other, like one of your brands gets sued, if that's not the same name as your LLC and there's no DBA connecting it, you get sued personally. So you gotta connect it back so that you're not actually personally liable. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
And
Talk to me
that,
after you do something like that. It's complicated, but basically you want DBAs for each one.
okay.
That's it.
So you work with women businesses to get their LLCs as well?
Yes and no, that's a complicated answer.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't have an LLC.
No, okay, so I am licensed in California, so what this means, basically, I can help you if you're doing a trademark, then I can help you, because that's federal law, so I can help anybody in any state. Then if you're already doing a trademark with me, I can help you with LLC, I can actually file it, do whatever. Otherwise, I am here to just be a resource and give you not legal advice, but my thoughts. Okay, cool. Right? I think I know what it was.
Can you help with copyrights as well?
I can, yes. Yep.
Is there a different search for copyrights?
There's no search for copyrights. It's terrible. It's sort of like the Wild West. So, but also like they don't check anything. They kind of just copyright anything. It's sort of like as long as you fill out the paperwork, they kind of just rubber stamp it and let you go.
So if I have like a course or program or service that's
Okay.
making something special, is
Yeah.
that
how do you
you
would
copyright something?
So you would copyright the course altogether. So you could copyright a course as one copyright. It protects like the videos, downloadables, all that kind of stuff. And then like the name of the course you would trademark.
Got it.
So, but with that copyright, I was saying you usually you can DIY them. I wouldn't DIY that because that's hard even for me to get a course copyrighted because they just need you to like do a whole bunch of nonsense to copyright it. So maybe just work with an attorney if you want to copyright that the whole course because it's like, well.
What about like a service, like a special service that a signature service is what I call
Yeah.
it?
You would trademark the name of that service. Yeah. Yep. And like that's a good sort of made me think about a different thing. Like there's no way to protect like an idea, like a business idea. So if you were like, so my brand, right? I'm like a trademark attorney for women-owned businesses. There's no way to protect that. Like anybody can do that. Or if I was like, I want to import this one type of jewelry from Brazil, like anybody can do that kind of stuff. So there's no way to be like, I want to be the only one who can have a course that's on like this particular wellness practice. Like nobody can do that. Anyone's allowed to do business ideas and business models. So that's not what you were asking, but just it's a question I get a lot. So yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I looked up my name
Yep.
of my business and I found it on social media. There's a bunch of people that started November 2023. I've had mine since 2021.
Weird. I love these people starting it.
And then there's one out of Houston, so it's not like it's
Weird.
far.
Yeah.
But none of them are trademarked in the government.
Yeah.
One, I looked it up.
Yeah.
Under marketing. So is that something that I would be like, hey, I need you to search it again for me to make sure? Because I'm seeing them on social, but you said I can.
Yeah, I would still say you want to before you trademark it, or search it before what?
Like have you search it again?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
just because like the USPTO search is like a good first step, but it's also really hard.
Yeah.
I'll do like a model search
Yeah.
just so you can see the difference, but like
I'm just trying to see what I'm looking for. So, okay.
Yeah.
Preference.
Basically,
My
yes.
brother's a lawyer, but he does real estate law.
Yeah,
So like
totally different. I wouldn't know how to do.
I don't want to say like it's
yeah.
useless to ask him, but
Yeah.
kind of.
You wouldn't know.
Love him, but no.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, what are the steps for me to work with you so I can get this process? Because
Yeah.
it is going to happen on my end.
Okay, I got you. So let me look up.
I'm like, I gotta figure out what's the next step.
You're gonna see like all of my tabs are trademark searches. This is like literally what I do all day in my life. Maybe I should have. Okay. Just the answer is just go to my website. Oh, I'm not on the internet. I don't know what I'm talking about. Go to my website, so okay. Sproutlaw.com. I'm gonna.
So that's first step with you.
Yes.
And we'll make sure, like, after all of our events, we always get follow up email. It's very, very important, actually, as I said, like, if you have not signed in and have done your QR to sign in, that is how we're able to send you follow up and you contact info for the poll or anything else.
Just
So
because
it's
it's
important
not
to sign in
common,
through
doesn't mean
every
it's
table,
something you should.
so that you can get connected.
She doesn't know about
So my website, trademark search up at the top left, just click on that. The other thing, we can do like a quick run through of the USPTO system. The other thing I was gonna mention, I know, two old white guys up in the front. Right? The other thing I was gonna say earlier when I lost my train of thought was, it makes sense to, so if you see a copycat, the worst thing you can do if you do not have a trademark, you should not reach out to them because you have no rights to stop them and they're just gonna be like, cool, I'm gonna file it before you. And then you're kind of effed, so just don't reach out to anybody unless you have a trademark. All right, so just a quick run through of like what you would look for in this USPTO search. This is the database of all the trademarks that have ever been filed. Some are registered, some are not for various reasons. So you go to uspto.gov, you'll click on trademarks, search, and then you sort of just like, it's kind of like a spray and pray method on here. You just kind of like, I type in Sprout Law and like a whole bunch of things come up, right? Like mine, but like also, let's see, if I just type in Sprout, right, like it's like 75,000 people come up. So you can sort of refine it here, but like if I look, let's say I'm having an apparel brand, right? And I type in shirts. Well, also bags are too similar. So if somebody has a bag line, that's not going to come up in the search, but I also need to know about that to know if it's similar. So it's like the search can help, but it's not going to be the best thing. And then you're going to see like some of them are dead, some of them are alive, but here if it says dead, it could be good. It could be like, oh, nobody has it, right? It also could mean like maybe they got denied because they're not going to let anybody protect this, including you. So you kind of have to know, you got to like dig around and you could basically like when you click on it, we'll take you through, right? So this one got abandoned because they got an office action, which is what happens when it gets denied and they didn't respond to it. So you can click through the documents and you can get all like messy and figure out why did this person get denied and go through.
So I pulled up my name, my exact name that I use, and then I did it under marketing. So just like marketing services.
Yes. So you want to run a search. You want start another search. Run a search for that because marketing is good, but also marketing can be too similar to branding. It can be too similar to advertising. It can be too similar to research. It can be too similar to have a podcast about leadership development.
Well, I'm not getting my name at all on it. Like you know how yours pops out Sprout's Law or
So
Sprout
what?
Law? I'm not getting any of that popping up when I search for my name, my exact name.
What's your exact name?
The Blooming Social.
The Blooming Social. Okay. But so for here, what you really need to search for is the word bloom. So the doesn't count, because that's just a basic word. Social doesn't count, because that's just what, like, that's considered a descriptive word, so it's like what you do, social. So blooming or bloom.
Okay.
And that's gonna be hard, because there's gonna be a million people trying to do that in marketing and register it. So when you type in bloom, and you type in, I even like maybe type in business or marketing, you can see like there's 1,300 versions of it. It's not to say it's bad, it's just to say like it's gonna take some time to go through all of that and figure out what the right thing to do is.
But if I hire you, you'll do that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, that's what we do. We do something nobody wants to do.
So, say someone, I have the same name as someone.
Yeah.
And they're trademarked.
Yeah.
And we're in the same industry.
Okay.
We're the same thing. Can I
You're
still
killing me.
make
Okay.
money using my own name? Like, let's, for example, let's say my name's Mel Robbins.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
trademarked,
Right.
So someone asked me to come and speak at their event. Can I get paid as Mel Robbins speaking at that event, even though that's something she's trademarked and she can do?
Do you start after her or before?
After she's.
Okay,
Couple
so two things. Can you get paid? Yes, literally you can. Like, yes, but Mel Robbins can sue you and get that money that you got paid back, and you might have to pay damages.
Even though it's my legal name.
Yeah, because what we were saying before, like you can use your legal name to order coffee at Starbucks, but you
Right.
you can't use it to start a business if somebody else hasn't.
Even if I'm not in the business, they're just like, hey, we love what you're doing.
You get it, but you're getting paid for it, so that's business.
And my bank account says Mel Robbins.
Yeah, because
and
once
my
you transact
license.
and make a sale, then it's a business. Yeah.
Okay.
Is your name really Mel Robbins?
Just no.
Okay.
No.
Is this real? Okay.
Can I ask a very similar
Yeah,
question?
yeah, please.
So my photography business is my name.
Yeah.
What if somebody has, because names often have different spellings.
Sure.
Is that like too similar?
Yes, different spellings count as the same spelling.
Yeah, great.
Unless they have different meanings. So if you try to get around Starbucks by like putting an X at the end, like that's still gonna be denied. It's too similar. So they look at like pronunciation, stuff like that. Sometimes we can argue they have a different meaning. We make some really ridiculous arguments. Some of them work, but most of the time, no. Yeah.
Cool. I have a question.
Oh, yeah,
I think
sorry.
of the name. So her name's Mel Robbins. She speaks as Mel Robbins, but her LLC is Sugar Shack.
Right.
So the Sugar Shack gets paid.
Yeah.
Even though Mel Robbins spoke. So
I still think yes. I still think you'd be in trouble.
Okay.
Not like trouble, but like
Yeah.
they could
You could
sue you.
still.
Yeah. Because it's really about like all of this that we're talking about is really just about what's the brand name. Like what is it that's on your Instagram? What is it that's on your website? What is
So I have to speak as Sugar Shack.
exactly? Yeah. Or you can say like your name from Sugar Shack. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on going back to like Kiss in the Kitchen, Keep It Simple Shannon? But I need to trademark both in terms of like there's Kiss in the Kitchen, but Keep It Simple Shannon
Yeah.
is it's not necessarily a tagline, but it's what Kiss stands for. And for example, just last week, one of my colleagues got a newsletter with her new like monthly thing on keeping it simple with Sam. And I'm like, and everyone that got it was like, did you see? And I'm like, I did. I'm processing this. Like, and it doesn't infringe monetarily on my business.
Right. It's just annoying.
It's annoying, and it's just that emotional part is where the name came from.
Yeah.
But like, does it work trademarking like Keep It Simple Shannon? But anyone, I mean, we all know that means Keep It Simple Stupid, and that was something that you're variation.
So number one, you have to sort like meanings like that. You can't really just trademark like the meaning of an acronym. But if you're using it as a tagline and on your website it says like Keep It Simple Shannon, then you can.
But
as far as like
protect going over to other people's names and start with that.
depends on the situation. So when we run a search, we look for like an example would be like you could look and see, okay, Keep It Simple. Maybe we find 50 variations of people who've been like, keep it simple Bob, keep it simple whatever, you know, and we're like, oh, they'll let everybody do that. So if you do that, they're gonna let Sam do it too. So like that doesn't make sense for you to protect it. But if we look at it and be like, there's nobody else that's doing it that has trademarked it, then we can say if you get it, it will protect against variations. That's a message. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, wrapping up. And one more.
Yay. So I need like a whole potpourri medley of things.
Love it.
Business.
Okay.
I
The
need
legal
an
potpourri.
Yeah, I need an LLC, I need a trademark, I
Yeah.
need all of these things. I also wanted to kind of protect my method of making, because I do have a lot of people asking for my method and wanting me to show videos on Instagram, which I kind of refuse. Because I don't.
What do you make?
I make the jewelry using vintage fabric.
there's not really a way to protect that, like the making process. So I think that's just like, yeah, the marketing decision behind like how much to share versus you're gonna give it away to everybody who then can use it.
Right.
So, yeah, that's one of those things that's like everybody is allowed to do it usually. Yeah.
Do you have connections with LLCs?
Yes. Yeah. So my info is just at Sprout Law or Nicole at NICOLE at Sprout Law. Just DM me, email me, whatever, ask questions. I can refer you to LLC lawyers in Texas, contract lawyers, like anything. We didn't really get into contracts, but like, yeah, we can talk about that. What else was I gonna say? We have free consultations, so if you ever want to just talk through the actual process, you can sign up on the website. So. But also our blog has just like a ton of things. So if you're like, wait, how do I get an LLC? Like go to the blog, seriously. There's like every question I ever get asked is on the blog. So it's all there. All the info. Yeah.
This was amazing. And also thank you guys so much for all your questions too.
Yeah, this is great.
I think your questions have helped us to think of things too. So good.
Yeah, like
so amazing. Thank you so much. Please, like I said, please follow Nicole if you have any other gal pals in business. Please have them follow Nicole too. We appreciate you so much.
If you guys like celebrity gossip, my Instagram and TikTok are all like, let's talk about Beyonce's
It's
trademark.
so good.
I also give pretty hot takes about it. Like Travis Kelce's trademarks are terrible. They're really bad. True Colors, TRUKOLORS, True Colors, right? I'm like, that's
What is
not
that
good.
for? Is it
Clothing brand, right? It's not good.
That's
Like,
why you need to
I'm
have an
sorry.
amazing attorney like Nicole to be like, that is not great for your brand. Very good. It's not good at all.
So anyways.
That's funny. Yeah,
That's it.
her Instagram is incredible. It's beautiful, and you are so consistent and approachable.
Oh, thank you.
I would say it's so good. I think one thing I was talking to Nicole before we started is when I see a business with that little R, I'm like, oh snap! That girl, that woman, she invested. Like she's invested, and I think it's also going to elevate your business. And if you want any sponsorships, if you want any partnerships, when they see your business with that little R, they'll say, okay, they're really taking this seriously. And so, yes, it's for protection, of course. That's going to be the number one, but also it just elevates you to another level. It really, really does. And believe in yourself. Believe in your business. If you've been going on for like several years, it is time. It is time to do it. That's my goal. My goal is to have that little arrow next to Babes for Babes. So I can look legit. But I really do think, and I admire businesses that have already taken that step to invest in themselves and believe in themselves that I'm going to take this not just now, but for years to come. So thank you. We're going to take a group photo. So we're going to all come up here and take a group photo. Do not forget to sign in. Also, it's almost 12. So like, because cutoff is 12 o'clock. Because my co-working gals need to come back and co-work. So cut off at 12 to head on out. But we have